I wish good things to you who's watching this. I am Alexey, and this is the round of 16 of the 2025 Carcassonne Champions League. Normally I try to cover these events live, but I happen to miss this exciting match by just a short amount of time. So what we're going to instead, we're going to do a match recap, because the match was so interesting that I can't simply let it go. I know the outcome of the match, but hopefully that you don't, because it happened super recently. The only thing that I can tell you that the match was pretty close, and we're going to follow the moves as they happened and also try to dive into some strategy issues that the players were thinking about. The players are my teammate, napalmEye of Latvia, playing against the Chinese master with a screen named SecretStar. So very even match, one where it could be really a coin toss if you look at the players' levels. And what we're going to do here, we're going to jump right in. The format is a best of 3. Whoever wins advances to the quarterfinals. Whoever loses is eliminated. So it's very, very straightforward. And in the first game, the Chinese player is starting with the red meeples. And let me just actually make this larger. Starts with 4 points. The Latvian is playing with his traditional blue, starts a 4-point road. I'm not going to comment too much on standard moves, so a new city for SecretStar. napalmEye, of course, continues a road, starts a new city. SecretStar trying to finish a city. napalmEye, of course, continues his own. So these are all standard moves. And monastery for SecretStar. Now that's actually an interesting choice already here. He could place it over here or over here. Here the advantage is that you're supporting your own city. The disadvantage is that actually this square will become a bit vulnerable because of these dagger tiles that have already been drawn. So there will be fewer tiles to complete the city than normal because of these dagger tiles. Whoops, gotta turn that off. So what else? Yeah, so I'm gonna assume that he placed it in the other spot. No, I guess this makes sense. I would have probably slightly preferred the other spot for the red, because it just gives back a little bit too much. It creates a larger field which benefits blue a little bit more than it benefits red, because blue can drop a farmer here with tempo. Blue can also pick up this road. Let's see what blue does here. So blue could make a normal move like this, but this is also really, really strong, starting a new city and trying to put some pressure on this square. And this is exactly what blue does. That's an excellent find, actually. Maybe perhaps taking inspiration from his other teammate, Krishna, who is known for starting multiple up to 3 or 4 or 5 different cities in different parts of the board for positional gains. And actually I really like this because, I mean, it's a shielded tile. Let's say if your opponent finishes a city, you can still continue a normal city. And these two guys, you're actually better off finishing them both with city caps rather than with Dorito tiles. Because with Dorito tiles, if you do like this, then you lose some value from this tile over here. That's actually an important pattern that we need to talk about a little bit. So you see this shielded tile, if it's part of 2 different cities, then it's being counted twice. Once for this city and once for the other city. But if it's part of 1 city, then it's only being counted once, because this is actually something that many get wrong about the rules of counting points in Carcassonne. You count not the number of segments on a feature, but you count the number of tiles on a feature. And even though this thing looks like visually it has 2 segments, if it becomes part of 1 city, then it's only going to be 2 points instead of 4 points. So that would be a slight inefficiency. And of course, it's always great to put some pressure on this square. And already this takes a concession. This results in a concession from red. Red, of course, really does not want to get blocked, and he chooses to connect these 2 cities. But now, first of all, as blue, we made sure that our opponent use the tile for a shared feature. Second, they, in hopes of defending their city, took away a lot of productive tiles from them. For example, they can't go here with a city cap and drop a farmer. And third, this square is still actually kind of vulnerable. So they can... Blue can go here and attack it a little later, try to block it or even invade the city with a third meeple. So that's why probably as red I wouldn't have done this. I would just simply have played the equity game, getting 4 points for a road, and then just hoping that my opponent does not get an easy block. Because the fact is, it's not that easy to find a city plus road tile for blocking. And chances are that even after this move, red still survives this most of the time. Hi Helge, hi Ian. So blue just finishes a city. SecretStar takes a... Well, that's a bit of a mistake from SecretStar. You always meeple roads like this when you have 5 meeples on the board, just to not allow blue to take easy points for free with some extra pressure on this square. So red is making some imprecisions here. Yeah, and red now is forced to attack a shared, well, to place a tile into a shared feature, simply to preserve the integrity of his monastery. But this is where blue can start the onslaught. So we're very likely to see a field invasion, and it is at the bottom, because if he were to invade here with the same tile, then this invasion can be obstructed. Blocking attempt against blue's road makes a lot of sense, but blue immediately draws a tile to bail himself out. So far, this position is looking really, really good for blue. And now SecretStar gets himself a chance to prevent the worst case scenario. Probably going over here, taking 3 points. I don't think we can afford to go here, take 2 points, well, and take 3 points here, just because this threat needs to be addressed. If we go here and take 2 points and start putting some pressure on this square, this is a little bit too slow. Because there are some scenarios where the Latvian could draw a Dorito and a city cap very quickly, and then if we draw road tiles from red's perspective, then we're powerless. But red does decide to leave the city alone, which is a bit iffy, but okay. So blue, of course, connects and is 1 tile away from finishing the city, but red manages to, at the very least, temporarily block it just in time. But also try imagine the same move, the same idea, but with this tile over here. It is now much, much, much safer for red, because blue still has plenty of tile that go into this square, and this city completed would be just too big of an advantage for blue. But at least the worst has been averted for now. Blue, of course, finishes the city and drops a farmer. The field is worth fighting for. It's already worth 9 points, and it will be worth then some. Yeah, look at this. Like, SecretStar does not have a single tile to attack the city. It actually looks really, really grim. So first of all, you need a road tile to fit there. Even if you take a road tile, there are still at least 3 of every kind of tile that fit into this square. There's there are daggers, there are these guys, and so on. So probably what you really want as yellow, as red actually, is to take something like a starting tile and then try to join this city rather than simply try and block it. But then if you do that, then look at how few Doritos with the road, and look at how few horses we have remaining. So there are very few connection tiles to that square. And this could allow blue to go here, and then block this square, trapping red's meeple at just 1 point. So it looks like an extremely difficult position for red. Red, of course, goes for the farm. This is the only reasonable thing that they can do. Blue decides to restrict the farm a little bit, which is really the most productive that he can do with a tile like this. And red gets bailed out. Red draws his starting tile, So this looks really okay for red now. He only needs to get a connection tile soon enough. Blue starts. Okay, so blue now makes what I think is a quite severe strategic mistake. I actually did not expect it. So the best move for blue was just starting a new city somewhere here or here, just away from the action. What blue does here, he goes for a bigger field fight, which makes sense on some level because he's ahead 14 points on the scoreboard, which is not like that huge. Let's say if his opponent completes the monastery, he's going to get 9 points extra. So then blue is only going to be ahead 5 points. But generally, this field, it has a lot of roads about it. And if you could just like block this square, then suddenly this meeple can be trapped with 6 points. So imagine this. A crossroads goes here. A road goes here. And then you can really play some nice field restriction. Now, it's not that likely because in all likelihood these farms will connect, but then it will grow to 9 points. And then we could get something like a straight line and then still keep the field contained for like 9 or 12 points, which would allow us to use the temporary meeple majority to score elsewhere. For example, 5 monasteries are remaining. There's a nice 5-point spot over here that we could build up and simply try and win this game without the field. What blue is doing, he is of course preparing the usual tactic of, finishing the city and dropping a farmer and connecting to the field and so on. But typically you want to be doing this only when the field is already large. Because at the moment, even though blue has a temporary meeple advantage, just because red is already on the majority on the field makes it more likely that red is going to pursue this. Or in any case, this move is very committal. By adding 2 more city caps in this field, it makes this field not only worth fighting for, but it's blue kind of puts an obligation on his future self to have to fight for this field. It's okay to fight for the field, but you don't want to be expanding this on purpose. So what blue could do here, simply start a new city somewhere, and then if red connects, then this will open a field connection platform for us from this side, so we don't have to necessarily bother with creating field connection platforms artificially. There's also this connection platform, so if the field becomes big enough, then it'll be worth fighting for. Another point about the meeple majority. So of course, red is going to wait for a tile that fits into the square for quite a while, statistically. And plenty of time, I'm going to estimate around 40% of the time he even gets blocked here. Or like very close to this, because this square is just so annoying to defend. Because of this road, it allows the creation of a blocking platform with tempo. So for example, with this curve, napalmEye can go here on the next turn, meeple a road like this, create a loop, and then try to put pressure on this square. And this will force SecretStar to try and draw a defense tile, reducing the number of options for this square. So this is great. But then if red does not connect to the city and does not finish its monastery, then our position is great and we really don't need the field in order to win because we can just use our meeple majority elsewhere. But if red does successfully connect, then suddenly red does not have the meeple majority anymore. And then our 5-point lead on the scoreboard matters a little bit less. In a closed position, a 5-point lead can really do a lot. In an open position, when the main field of the game is a bit bigger, then we need to fight for it. Well, actually, now that I think about this, if red connects, it will also make the field bigger in most cases because the city will also be completed. But then we can fight for the bottom field without necessarily making the stakes in this game greater than they have to be. So even though tactically this move is excellent, kind of strategically it is a bit too inflexible to my liking. Yeah, and also red now neutralizes the city, which actually is great news for us because this city is less likely to be completed. And The field is still fairly close. Well, this city cap is a little bit annoying. And also Red's just invested a meeple to neutralize ours. And so our meeple advantage is now 3 against 1. And even though it's temporary, it allows for a very nice advantage. It makes us score easier. For example, we can use monasteries, whereas our opponents can't. We can start new cities with city caps without being afraid to place our last meeple and losing value from crossroads and stuff like this. So it's a really, really good position for blue. Yeah, blue chooses to block in this way. And now I'm very curious. Will red go for the content move? The content move here is, of course, to bet the entirety of the game on just one tile. Going over here and meepling this city. And then hoping for the last remaining horse tile that fits into the square and just obliterates the city, completes the monastery, and so on and so on and so on. So very interesting if this happened. It seems to be a bit too committal at this moment, but then also what else do you do? If you go here and just defend this without committing a meeple, then you're still hoping to get that tile. Like, you're still not winning the game if you're gonna... You're still not winning the game without the horse, without the triple city. So you might as well just place a meeple and get some extra value from it. The one concern that would have here is red. So if we go here and do the super committal move, then whilst we wait for that tile, even if we get it, the 2-0 meeple majority is so much that blue could score and score and score, and in some instances even outrun the big city. He could drop some compensation farmers, he could, I don't know, just take quick point, build cities and stuff, whereas our only way of getting meeple back would be either getting the key tile soon enough or trying to build up a shared city just to give a meeple back for both. So this looks really, really grim. But then what are alternatives? We could also go here for an indirect defense from red's perspective and still leave 3 tile that fit into the square. But with 7 curves remaining, blue could easily go over here and block this square in its entirety, and then we also lose the game quite miserably. So the short answer is I don't know, but I really hope to see the content move over here, and boring, 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 boring. I'm disappointed. Milik is saying orientation of the curve seems bad. Are there really so many defensive field tiles? That's actually a great question. I think the concern of blue was that if we point the curve downwards, which is something that I would have done actually. So if we get the curve pointed downwards, then first of all, but there are many defense tiles which allow the opponent the super committal move. So the same thing with the meeple, which I think blue really didn't want to see. How do we say this? So, like, for example, a vanilla city cap. It was much more likely outcome than this. Second, 6 straight lines remaining. I think that was also a big concern. Third, there are multiple crossroads available, and so blue was banking on the fact that maybe red is going to get a crossroads and then finish the road for blue. And then blue just gets free points and red misses out. The downside of this move is that if red gets a curve, then red can not only defend, but also indirectly block this road. Because let's say if a curve goes like this, then this square is restricted. Then upon the completion of the city with a Dorito tile, with the Dorito with the road, this here square is restricted and it is part of blue's road. And then this meeple is lost. it is lost at like 8 points, which is not that bad. But the field is going to be at least 12, if not more, so that would be a bit too much of a loss. But yeah, that's interesting, actually. What else? Well, yeah, and of course, if we point it downwards, there's the 6 straight lines, and the 6 straight lines can be an easy defense. But you know what? Now that I think about this, maybe it's actually not so bad. So if we point it downwards, and our opponent gets a straight line, then we can go here and simply drop a farmer. And then we can allow our opponent to complete the city. But then by completing the city, they let us into the field. And since we already decided that we want parity on the field at the very least, it's just very nice to have a super efficient farmer like this. And of course, if they never complete the city, that's great. We just drop one farmer for 0 points, but they have more meeples trapped than us. And we're even scoring more points in this area in any case. So maybe that was actually a way to go. But yeah, but this move tactically makes a lot of sense just because of the straight lines and because of the crossroads. But it doesn't play well against curves, so that's the problem. Now, if you really want to dive deep into this, then I can offer you a way of thinking, which is just very difficult to do in an actual game. But basically, you look at all of the pool of unseen tiles, and you evaluate how your move plays against which tiles. So, okay, against straight lines, obviously this move wins. So straight line. Against city plus, okay, so it's 6 tiles, right? Against city plus field tiles, tough to say. Okay, against 4 monasteries, it's no, it loses. Okay, against crossroads, it's 5. Then what else? Then the alternative move that you suggested in the chat, it's better against curves, so there's 7 curves. It's better against monasteries, against field monasteries, so that's 4. This move is better against a road monastery, so that's 1. What kind of other tiles do I have available? And as for the others, it seems to be not clear, right? Well, it does appear that this move is marginally better by 1 tile. And then it's difficult to evaluate which move is better against city plus field tiles. I guess this move is better against city plus field tiles, because it does not allow your opponent any form of 50-50 defense. So yeah, this actually does appear marginally better when it comes to just pure blocking chances. Since it's only marginally better, I probably prefer the other move slightly more, simply because of that option to drop a farmer if our opponent gets a defense. So it's not just about the chances of successfully blocking our opponent, but it's about the overall outcome. So it's not about the probability of the outcomes, it's just the impact of the outcomes too. In any case, our opponent keeps scoring, and this is what happened. They're still committed to just 1 tile, so it's still a nice result to have. Like, statistically, they're still going to be unlikely to draw this soon enough, and half of the time they never draw it at all. Yeah, so you see now Red is pre-building some stuff in kind of desperation. This is the kind of thing that you're supposed to do with 1 meeple. And Blue decides to pre-build the city. That's pretty interesting. So he knows that he has the meeples to meeple the city in the future, but because Red has only 1 meeple, Red can't commit to this. And that's actually very smart. Now a straight line for Blue, which is a bit unfortunate because we now see that this square is being permanently blocked. And this is I guess the main downside of this move is that the negative effect is quite unfortunate from there. So this move prepares a field invasion in the future through one of these 4 curves, but probably a move that I would have preferred is simply going over here and trying to build a 4-point road, a 6-point road, using that meeple advantage, using the fact that there's still 3 crossroads in the game. Red is trying to build up a shared city, immediately denied by blue. Yeah, this is really the only thing that red can do, is just kind of dispense of tiles in a neutral location, and that's pretty much it. Okay, so finally, napalmEye gets to start a city somewhere. I don't think we ever go here. We probably just go in a neutral location, really. Although it is also tempting to do something like this or like this. The problem if we try to go for this city, it gets blocked just a little bit too often. You see, because there are no left-handed daggers left, this makes this square a bit too vulnerable, either to a sequence of a straight line plus curve, or whenever we get the right-handed dagger to score 4 points for the road and bring our city closer to the completion, our opponents can go here and pressure us. So that could be a problem. But let's see if he goes for it. No, he doesn't. He just simply wants to start a new city. Yep, and a scoring tile for our opponents. Hi, napalmEye. Another dagger for SecretStar, who now connects the farms and gets still the field majority. napalmEye blocks off the city, restricts the farm a little bit, and the restriction of the city now follows. There are still 4 city caps that fit into this square, but it will be quite a wait. Yeah, I know, and now blue is in a position where he has unplayable tiles, but there's a strong move available here. Well, there are a couple of strong moves. So whenever you have a double city cap and you have only 1 meeple, the best move is not to do something like this to start a new city. This is just a bit too slow. Although it's not bad, but there are not that many city caps remaining and our opponent could also block it. Probably the best move is doing something like this. Or the second best move is this. So you just drop the city caps in a separate location, and then the most likely outcome statistically, around like 70 to 80% of the time, depending on the number of remaining tiles and number of remaining city caps, what's going to happen is that your opponent's going to take 4 points there, and you're going to take the other 4 pointer. So eventually it's going to be a wash. And then a fraction of the time, you even take both city caps, or your opponent takes both of these city caps. The reason why I like dispensing of them here is because it also blocks this square in a way where only we can benefit. So there would be only 1 tile that fits there, the horse, which red already needs over here. So if red gets the horse, they of course put it here, and so on and get their monetary meeple back. But if we get the horse, we get to score 4 points here. And our opponent also does not get to use one of the scoring tiles for this city cap. They of course still have these caps available to them, but it is what it is. And they had the bottom cap anyway. So this would be my move of choice. Oh, look at this. And blue finds it. Really lovely find, because it's typically like very difficult to find productive moves when you are at a meeple disadvantage. Well, not at a meeple disadvantage, when you have a shortage on meeples. And this also brings us back to this move, which again, I don't think a mistake at all, but the disadvantage of that is that we lose our main asset. Because this meeple is eventually trapped, then our meeple advantage is sort of kind of gone. So some blocking moves. Our opponent scores, but so do we. And that's actually a great run out of tiles, because look at what we have. We have ourselves a counter field. One of the players is eventually going to draw a city cap that fits into this square. And this will create a 9-point field. And since we're still likely to have the meeple majority, because we can still retrieve this guy with still 4 tiles that fit into that square, then we are more likely to occupy this field on the right. Now we're going to have 2 9-point fields, well, one here and one here, and this means that we can equalize our opponent's field by just simply going into another field. The difference is that in order to equalize this here field, we would need to spend 2 tiles, and also no fields connection is certain because, for example, you can see there are 2 curves remaining here. So it's a 75% chance that we would be able to draw it if we bet on these curves. If you just take the 9-point field, first of all, you spend only 1 move, and second, it's 100% chance. You just lay down there and that's it. So that's quite fortunate. Now, of course, SecretStar tries to block us. We get ourselves 4 points, which are super, super important. A scoring tile for a 3-point road for red. Now an interesting decision. Do we go for the field straight away? I don't think we do. Although the problem of not going for the field, right, is that there are some scenarios how our opponent could place their last meeple on the field closer to the end of the game before they even get a meeple back from this city. So we need to watch out for that a little bit. But I don't think we can afford to drop farmers just yet because there's still some scoring tiles available in the deck. And second, if our opponent does take the 9-point field, then we still have a way to score with our last meeple by meepling this 8-point ruin, which is almost just as good as a 9-point field. So what do? Maybe we either restrict our opponent's field a little bit, or we maybe go here that actually be really strong, because that would limit the number of blocking tiles that fits into that square. Okay, so I think actually I don't like this move. That's what my first instinct is. So this limits this ruin. This limits the option to take this ruin. But then you got to ask yourself, does this benefit us or does this benefit our opponents? Since we are likely to have the meeple majority, I guess we want to have both features open. Or remember that thing that I talked about, that our opponent goes here for a 9-point field, and then we still want to have options to score with the ruin. Now there are fewer options to take this ruin, because now you can only take it with one of the 2 city plus road tiles that fit into this square. On the other hand, if red does get a meeple back, then it gives us tempo. So imagine the situation. Red gets a meeple back, get their 9 points for the monastery, city back, everybody has 3 meeples in hand now. Red even has 4. And then, with whichever tile we have, we get to go over here because we have to claim the field. Then after that, our opponent gets a city tile, and then they can no longer meeple this ruin. So that's actually pretty interesting. So it's sort of restricting in advance the second most valuable feature on the board, preparing for the situation where red gets themselves a meeple back, but after red gets the meeple back, it's going to be our turn. So it is in our interest to have one feature on the board for that situation. So it's a very thin consideration here that on one hand, if our opponent goes on the field first, we want to have this secondary feature available for ourselves, but if we go on the field first, we want not to have this secondary feature available for our opponent easily. So that way, this move indicates that blue thinks that he's more likely to go over here himself. And this very well could be the case. So what else do we have? Oh yeah, just some moves. Yeah, thank you, napalmEye, for confirming in the chat this was exactly your point. Yeah, actually, this makes a lot of sense. It's kind of difficult to assess. One of the reasons why I initially didn't like this move is, well, I told you why, but then kind of running through the logic, I see, you know, all the depth behind it. And maybe I just like the defense here, just because there are straight lines, and there are a bunch of tiles that don't fit here anymore. So by going over here with a straight line, we'll make our city slightly safer. But its value is also marginal because our opponent just opened a gigantic blocking platform from the top. Anyway. Ooh, that's a really strong move from our opponents. So it's clear what they're trying to do. They're trying to expand their field by bringing in these 3 cities. That's actually extremely dangerous. And we really can't do nothing much about it. I guess we can go here, but then that would be, I'm not sure if that would be worth spending 2 points on this. Let's try and think about it. So at the moment we're +8, equalized by our opponent's monastery. This city cancels out. These 2 road meeples cancel out. And what we're having is our opponent has a 9-point field, and we have a 5-point road. So actually we're 4 points behind, so we can't really afford to be spending quick points on stuff like this. Yeah, so what do we even do here? I guess we just need to go here, and then we just try to hope block this later. Because another problem with our position... Oh wait, I forgot something. Yeah, we own this part of the city. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So actually we are ahead by 5 points or something. This of course will not be the case if our opponent goes here. If they do go here, then they take 8 points for equalizing the city, 1 point for the monastery, and 3 points for the farm. So from this tile, the threat against the square is +12. And we need to decide for ourselves here, can we withstand +12? Can we try and, can we withstand +12 from our opponent? Can we actually win after this? Or do we simply have to hope for the last tile that fits there? The answer, I think we can still win even if our opponent completes the city, because there are still chances for us to complete this city. We can still get some quick points here and there. We can still, in the end, fight for the big farm if we have to. So I probably take the 2 quick points here. And this is exactly what blue does, also further restricting this ruin. Now a permanent block follows from SecretStar. It's not necessarily a block, because there's still 1 tile that fits into the square. But red is clearly banking on getting this tile himself. So if red assumed that he's successful here, then this would also mean blue not getting his tile. And in any case, that's a move that you just have to make, because 3 recovery tiles for blue means that blue had a meeple recovery chance of 25% on the next turn alone. This is not something that you can afford. So what does blue do here? I wonder if we can just meeple the field. I don't think we can do that. Or maybe we do that. No, he does not do that yet. He makes it harder to connect the 2 fields. But of course, SecretStar is still trying to connect, but he's being imprecise. A better way was actually to go over here. Because if you look at the pool of unseen tiles, we can see that either way, there's only 1 tile that fits into the square, the regular city cap, for a field's connection. But there's 1 tile still available to separate the field, like this. And if this monastery were to go over here, then the option to separate the fields would no longer be there. It would be like this square would be covered. And again, difficult situation here for blue. Do we go to the farm now? And actually, I think the answer at this point might be yes. So if our opponent never gets the key tile, then we probably win because we're ahead now, and then we get 9 more points, and I just don't think there's enough room for our opponent to score. The best they can do is score for a bunch of city caps, which is painful. Well, they could get like more than 10 points, I guess. But I would really, really hate to see the fields united. Because then if the fields are united, they can win without the key tile. And also if we do drop a farmer and they get the key tile, we get 2 meeples back anyway. So I'm probably inclined to go there right now if I am... Ooh! I didn't anticipate that. So Red put a meeple there himself. Yeah, that was the kind of stuff that it was talking about. That actually Red could try and go for the field himself. And then in that case, it is now in our interest to be able to meeple this ruin. So maybe do we go and protect this ruin now? Maybe that's the plan. Yeah, this is very, very interesting. At this point, we are behind by 4 or 5 points from Blue's perspective. And a meeple, to have a meeple is great because we can just, I don't know, meeple a road for a few points and then we can outrun that. But there's some issues. There's still a couple of city caps available, so our opponent can score by expanding the field a little bit, especially if they get the vanilla city cap and then they get an umbrella, for example, and they can score 3 points even without a meeple. Yeah, it's kind of tough, actually. Or maybe we go here and set up a road for us to score. Very interesting. Okay, let's have a look. Yeah, so a road setup is what happens. Probably going to be denied by SecretStar, but I think there is a stronger move. SecretStar can now go here and kill off the ruin, not allow us to meeple the ruin. He can also... Because if he goes here, that's fine. It eliminates a road, but it leaves a city cap back for us to score. I wonder if going here is crazy. And trying to set up the vanilla city cap to expand his field like this. Yeah, really tricky decision here. He decides to eliminate the road. Then Blue successfully separates the 2 fields, even though it doesn't matter because the fields don't share cities, so the separation of the 2 fields really does not influence anything point-wise. But once these farmers are separated, it will allow Blue to fight for one of these fields if necessary. There are ways of invading this 9-point field through the right with many combinations. For example, crossroads plus curve works, or straight line plus vanilla city cap works. All of that works. What else? And then, of course, the bottom field we can invade with a straight line plus curve or something like this. So these are all not great chances, but they're definitely okay chances. By the way, also here, extender plus city cap. So there are loads of ways to invade one of the fields. Oh, that's a fantastic tile for napalmEye to just score a little bit. That could make all the difference in the world, and also to leave a city cap open. SecretStar now eliminates said city cap, but now napalmEye chooses to just do... I wonder what's the purpose of that move. I'm not a... Okay, to be honest, I don't quite understand it. So this expands the field a little bit, I guess. No, it doesn't really do all that much. The move that I probably prefer there is maybe pre-building a 4-point road. Something like that. We might also try invading one of the fields. And probably, you know what, at this point, I'm actually really tempted to use a meeple. Because if our opponent gets this key tile right now, Then they're going to give us 2 meeples back, and we're going to have 2 moves per 2 meeples. Yeah, so I think actually from Blue's perspective, Blue really needs to meeple something there. And the options include either we go for this 3-point field here, and then there's some scenarios where our opponent gets this, but we get the vanilla city cap to connect and claim at least 9 points for this. Or we just meeple this 4 points straight up as the highest scoring feature. Yeah, I think we really, really have to do this because our opponent scores 12 with this move, but I think these 4 points could really, really matter. Let's try and think about this. So what's the points count at the moment? So we are ahead 12 points on the scoreboard, and our opponent has 2 9-point fields. So that's 18 points for farms. Then these cities cancel out. These cities cancel out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So our opponent has 8 for the monastery. And we have 9 for the city, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 for the road, right? So 26 and 26, 26, 26. So the game is completely tied and we have 1 meeple, which means that if our opponent does get that tile, we're probably very close to being lost here. But then if our opponent doesn't take that tile, then we'll win for sure. If we just meeple anything. So why not meeple anything? Because if we do meeple this, and our opponent gets that key tile, then at the very least we're only down -8. And that actually could turn out very close to doable. Let's think about this. So we'll go here for 4 points. Our opponent gets immediately this tile, right? And then they score 12. We're at -8. Then we maybe get this tile to claim the ruin. And the ruin is worth 8 points as well. So we've just equalized the game. Our opponent still has 2 tiles to place and 2 meeples to place. But it's actually quite difficult because then they get the 4 points over here. And then how else do we win? We really don't win because all the remaining city tiles are city tiles. So maybe then, you know what, then they're different plan. I actually think that the move here is to go here and meeple a 3-point piece of field. High Glavier. This puts us up 3 points. Then, let's go for this scenario. Our opponent finishes the shared city for 12. We are at -9. Then we get the ruin. Then we're at -1. Then our opponent gets the shielded thing, meeples this piece. They are at they are at +6, so we're at -6. But then we get the vanilla city cap and connect to the field, and we gain 6 for the field's connection because we unify a 9-point field with a 3-point field, and we get 1 here, so we get 7. So this puts us at +1, which is still bad because our opponent is going to just meeple a 3-point field with his last tile. So it actually turns out that no matter what you do, the game really just going to be decided by that tile, which is pretty anticlimactic. So I guess here, any move has equal chance of winning. But if you don't want to calculate through all of that, from a purely practical standpoint, for example, if the difference were, if the score and the scoreboard were a little bit different, then the strategic idea of getting rid of a meeple in time before your opponent gives you enough meeples back to cover your last couple of moves, that's actually super important. And there are places where these 4 points or these 3 points could matter a lot. But as you can see, SecretStar gets the vanilla city cap, and then we breathe a sigh of relief as we win the coin flip. And okay, that's a bit of a miss here. of 2 points. What we should have done, of course, is going over here and take a 4-point move. I take maybe time trouble was in order, but once this tile is drawn, then there's nothing that can be done. And that's also really interesting how it turns out that this endgame almost didn't matter, that all the moves were equal. There was just no way to win in a scenario where your opponent gets the crucial tile for either of the players. But I think all of this was an avoidable situation for Red, and it's really Red's mistake that resulted in him being in such a difficult position. As you can see, 57 against 50 is the result. It's not often that in Carcassonne you score as little as 57 points and then you confidently win against your opponent +7. So this is actually one of the lowest winning scores I've ever seen. There have been a lower winning score in official tournament play. A game was won with 55 points, and I remember that game very well because I was on the losing side of that. That was in the 2023 World Team Carcassonne Online Championship, Latvia against Spain. Quite a Spainful match. But yeah, so just wanted to point out, I think Red being a bit imprudent, first of all, creating this sensitive square in himself, allowing Blue tempo for invading the city, and then the crucial mistake for Red was this one over here. Taking 3 points in a way which doesn't obstruct the city. Red could have gone over here. Instead, Red was forced into this unenviable position with an extra meeple trapped over here, and he didn't get this tile, and then as a result, lost the game. So this is one of those cases where you have these opening decisions which are really, really far-reaching, and I felt that, yeah, napalmEye was just super precise in the opening, and just generally played this game at a really high level. And Red, although this was a real nice idea to expand the field, Red felt like got himself into trouble in the opening. Many things. This monastery placement, by the way, is okay, but a bit suboptimal. But it also needs to be pointed out that in order for this situation to be possible, Blue had to make the counterintuitive move of using this Dorito over here and starting a city like this. Putting pressure on that square, not continuing any of his top cities at the top, and any of these two cities, delaying their completion, and as a result of putting this pressure here, this situation arose. So it's not just mistakes by Red. These mistakes by Red were caused by pressure from Blue. Anyway, so the first game goes to the Latvian, and after a short break for hot liquid intake of around 2 minutes, we're gonna go to the second game, where the Latvian is going to have the starting player advantage. And now we're back. This is game 2 of the second playoff round encounter between Latvia's napalmEye and China's SecretStar. The score is 1-0. So if napalmEye wins this one, it's going to be the Latvians' victory. If not, then we're headed into a decider. All right, just gotta double check the chat. Now we're good. I can see everything, all your questions and suggestions. You know what? Just gonna throw a reminder to Meeple, the like button for the algorithm. That is quite important. Okay, the Latvians start with a 4-point city. And very interesting response here from SecretStar. The standard move is typically to just Meeple a city, but here it's really interesting. You know what this does? It just restricts the options for the opponent a little bit. And from Red's perspective, it makes life worse for monasteries. A monastery in the opening is super powerful tile, and if a monastery is drawn, specifically the field monastery, then it goes over here, and you kind of have to meeple it, but it's a bit awkward because this square is already restricted. So actually that's a decent move. Not as aggressive as the usual response, but it makes some sense. Yeah, that move I'm not a fan. Again, it's kind of difficult to decide how to play in a situation where you're dealing with a position which is a bit unusual, because this tile normally doesn't go here in most openings. But if you're going to do this, then you're probably better off by doing something like this, actually. By starting a new city that does not leave the second city cap unrestricted. And if you go here, from Red's perspective, and your opponent meeples this city, well then suddenly this city is vulnerable. But then from Red's perspective, if your opponent doesn't meeple the city, then you can suddenly get yourself a city cap like this, and then try to get away with a bigger city with a bunch of Doritos. So there can be really, really good outcomes with this sort of flexible move. But a city cap tile is not drawn. Instead, Red is getting rewarded for the gamble and equalizes the scoreboard. Oh, very interesting move here by Giannis. Not finishing the road, but instead going for the restriction. And actually lately, I've been shifting to this sort of approach sooner. Sooner in the game, I mean. This early blocking can really disrupt scoring opportunities for your opponent. And the point of this move is not to trap this meeple. This is actually quite unlikely to occur, although it is not impossible. The point is to make these here tiles, the extenders, the splitters, some Doritos maybe, they make them much harder to use for their opponent. So that's actually a really strong move here. And I've noticed that my rating went up as I started doing this more often, because I have been advocating for a very greedy style of playing when it comes to points. Just score, 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 and then simply outscore your opponent. And I still do that, but there's some exceptions to this. So the expected value of this move is actually a bit more than what you would normally expect with just finishing this road. And this road can be finished later with so many possibilities. Then the reason why I used not to play moves like these was because to minimize variance, right? My opponent still has plenty of tiles to complete a city, but then I sort of just wasted a move. But in reality, it's not a complete waste, because if my opponent gets a dagger tile and goes over here, then yeah, they'll be getting meeple back. They will also be taking this road, which is not ideal. But had this threat not been here, this would have allowed my opponent to use the dagger tile at the top. and start a second city, abiding by the principle of two cities, and then putting pressure on this square. Well, actually, no. If we were to finish this road, then obviously there would be no pressure on this square. But they would still, they could start a second city rather than finishing the previous one. They get to do this. They forget to meeple the curve, which honestly is a rather big oversight from the Chinese player. Really, yeah, they're really supposed to meeple the curve there, because now what napalmEye is going to do, he's not going to finish this curve, he's going to meeple the other one. Maybe going over here is an option, but in this case, that would be a bit of an overkill. With a straight line, by all means. But the move here is definitely to meeple the second curve, making the square a bit more vulnerable further and scoring extra. And this is exactly what blue does. So, you see, already, red's mistake is costing him a lot of points. Then, really smart move here by blue. So normally, you want to be connecting to your opponent's cities rather than trying to block them, right? Because your opponent is threatening a 6-point city, you're only threatening a 4-point city, and so on. The restriction normally doesn't work. And even if you try to block this meeple, it's technically on the wrong side, because if you go over here and start a new city like this, then due to the dagger asymmetry, or due to the fact that one of these tiles has gone, our opponent is a bit more likely to complete that city because they have one more tile, because they have these 3 extra daggers, comparison to what they would have had if we go on the other side. But the positional advantage of these moves, they have so much more benefit that the dagger asymmetry ends up not mattering. And also the fact that we're not connecting to the city is not mattering. So first of all, if we connect to the city, it's actually a bit annoying because our opponent can get a city cap and connect back. This is something that we would really not like, and it's quite easy to do for them, and then they can just get an even larger city. Sometimes, if this gets blocked, it can result into a fight for a big ruin. Let's say if our opponent connects back to the city with a Dorito tile, and then we connect, and then they reconnect, and then there's a big ruin. And big ruins don't benefit the player who has already committed on the field. So we want to keep things as green as possible. And of course, with this move, we're developing our field and we're denying our opponents the joy of completing the city and dropping a farmer. We're also making it so that if they do get an extender and extend their city, then we already have a platform to re-attack. We're going to be finishing the city and attacking them over here. So that's not the obvious move. Like most high-end experts to masters know this sort of stuff. But it's a really nice find here from blue. Wait, everything's falling. Yeah, so basically part of my equipment is physically broken. So this backdrop is much flimsier than it used to be. I'll try not to fall too much. Alrighty. Dagger tile for our opponent. That's a decent move. Starting a new city, restricting the road of blue. Oh, well, actually, maybe that's not that bad. Maybe that's interesting. I'm not sure how much I like that. I guess the nice value from this move is the fact that we're threatening blocks, which is really good for us, and we're threatening invasions like this through the cow tile. If we do block that square successfully, then, well, that's fantastic because our opponent is blocked at 2, we're also blocked at 2 points, but then we have all these expansions squares and we can score a ton. But this configuration is a bit riskier than it seems, because this meeple is frozen for a while. You see, once you have this pattern, which is a legit pattern to have, the only way how you can continue your meeple safely is with one of the 8 remaining Doritos, or a splitter. we actually can never put a city cap here. Because if we put a city cap, then our opponent has a platform to invade the city and win themselves 16 points. And this is not what we want to have. So we actually have to wait for a Dorito tile before we go here. And then later we decide, for example, if we get a starting tile, we go here. And then we complete the block. Or if we get something like a triple city tile, we get to do this. Or if we get an extender, we maybe get to do this, trying to go for the Dorito plus Dorito pattern and overrun the city. And whilst our meeple is waiting, Reds can go here and here and start blocking something. So from Blue's perspective, I don't think that our opponent finishing a 6-point city is such a big threat. The city is still in our field, and this shielded tile is worth a lot in and of itself. So we're probably better off just going over here, either pointing downwards or upwards, sort of whichever you prefer. It's a bit of a, it's quite a science where exactly. But if we point it upwards or downwards, then we're threatening both the completion of our city and the block of our opponent. Even though I said that this meeple doesn't block here very often, it's still a decent enough number to be worth trying. So a monastery for 3 points, which is fantastic for our opponent. We try to block our opponents unsuccessfully, but that's okay. And they start a counter field, which is worth 6 points compared to our 3 points. What do? We just finish the city, which on some level, yeah, it makes sense. Because you want to continue your field. You want to get out of that position as soon as possible. And you see, now that our opponent places the monastery here and controls our city, then we no longer have the luxury of waiting for a Dorito for the perfect tile, because our opponent is going to go here with a straight line and restrict us. And then they might even block that square. So in that way, it makes sense. It does make it vulnerable in the long run. So that's why I didn't like this pattern. Our opponents could get a row Dorito here and just gain a pretty sizable advantage by threatening that city. And it's just not something that we want to be allowing. I mean, at this point, yes, we have to do that. And we can't play super scared. And you know, some of the time, we are the ones who benefit from this place, or we even get to block it. But I would have probably just preferred not to get into that situation in the first place. But still, it's nice. It's nice. Our opponent saves the connection, which they have to do, drops a farmer. We get ourselves a meeple back, and they are going for big Brazilian field fights, it seems, because they can go here and here, or get a road monastery. So there are plenty of ways how all these farms get unified. And also it restricts this square a little bit. So a nice move here from Red. Still in equal position. That's an interesting decision, actually. So they, I think, are overreacting a little bit to how big the city can become. So they're blocking a shared city, but they're also making it harder for them to invade the field. I guess they can get the dagger or something. Yeah, I think that's what they're hoping for. But if they do get the dagger, then... Wait, actually they don't even have to do this, because they have this invasion route through the road monastery and through the starting tile. Yeah, it seems to be just a waste of a city cap. Really, what Red should do is just score. City caps are meant to be starting new cities, and then you can deal with the shape of the board a little bit later. Also, this fields can be developed enough. So this already concedes points for blue and takes the threat of blocking the square. Secret Star now starting a new city. Blue scores, whilst also restricting the field of red. Oh, somebody's about to get blocked. Yeah, that was not great from parts of red. So I know that we can judge the things by seeing the tiles, but what red should have figured out is that there's only one right-handed dagger tile available. And if blue is going to draw one of the many Doritos or the big tiles, which they're still in plentiful supply, then this move will make sure that there's only one tile that fits into the square. Now, a ruin, of course, is still nice. It's still not that bad. But probably from Red's perspective, I prefer maybe starting a new road for 4 points. I know shielded tiles are wonderful, but so are roads. Yeah, actually, the more I think about it, I think that this decision was made due to a lack of a better alternative, so I understand Red from this perspective. It's just a way to score and hope that your opponent does not get a blocking tile. Yeah, that makes sense. But you know, he could have simply not put himself into that position in the first place by starting a city elsewhere earlier with a starting tile, but anyway, so points. Oh, this is super painful for Red. Red now has his meeple blocked, his farmer very close to being blocked, but this ruin will be worth a decent number of points. So still, Blue with a slightly better position due to the scoreboard. Red now quite wonderfully develops his field. Blue, of course, immediately takes advantage of that city cap, and Red now knows his stuff. This is exactly how you're supposed to do. So you restrict your opponent's city, and then you also meeple your own, and then you try to block it permanently, or at the very least, if Blue continues his city, then Blue will not be losing. Blue will not be using this field's connection platform. Blue starts a new city. He restricts his field, but that's not a problem because the fields are about to get joined, which they are. And now Blue has a couple of strong moves available. I can think of two. Move one is going over here, and it's just trying to put pressure on SecretStar's city in a variety of ways. So first of all, if we manage to get a road before our opponent gets the city cap, that's actually huge because we get to restrict this meeple. And if we get to restrict this meeple, then this means that this square is not occupied. This means that this platform for blocking our city is not created. And then we can keep that meeple, and then we can keep our own meeple here safer. If our opponent does get a city cap, then they need to make a difficult decision whether to drop another farmer to protect their field. If they do get a farmer, then we can find ourselves in an imbalance where we use our long-term meeple majority to score. We allow them to have a medium-sized field, but then we hope to outrun that with our meeple majority plus our existing lead on the scoreboard. If they don't drop a farmer upon completion, then we get to invade the field ourselves, perhaps, whilst also protecting our city, and we get to invade through our city. So there are some options like this. Some other alternatives include here. Here is a sneaky move because it's slight to protect the square. What it's trying to do is trying to draw one of the 4 remaining curves and go over here and block the field unification. This move has more of a marginal benefit because if we go over here, then this square can still be filled with one of the remaining crossroads that take 2 points and still preserve the chance of a dagger being drawn. Option 3 is going over here. That restricts scoring options for our opponent. Now they cannot use a curve to score 3 points. And we also start putting some pressure on the monastery. So it has to be between this and this. The utility of this move over here is a bit marginal. So let's see which one was played. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It also creates a 4-point road, which we're slightly more likely to benefit from. And they can't really do nothing much. And we... I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't... Well, I don't like it. So I can see the points of this. The point is, we're trying to save our meeple from our opponents potentially drawing a splitter. And then they can free up their own meeple, but our meeple is going to be trapped. but I think it says misrecognizing the priorities here. So first of all, if our opponent does get the splitter, which is unlikely because there's still 3 road Doritos that fit into that square. Hi, Hugo. So there are 3 road Doritos that fill into that square. We're still more likely than our opponent, around over 70% chance actually. More than that. We can even go and... Actually, no, I'm very curious. I'm very curious. So what's the situation? The situation... Wait. Yeah, there we go. No spoilers. The situation is that we need to get one of the 3 Doritos before our opponent gets the splitter, or we need to, or for our opponent not to get the splitter in the first place. So, total tiles remaining 34. Tiles for player A, this is the player who is about to go, 1. Tiles to player B, that's us. Tiles for both, well, that's actually 0. Yeah, so only a 23% chance. Let's run this again. For player A to draw the splitter before we do. Well, actually, you know what? I think we need to modify it, because if we draw the splitter, then it's also good for us. Wait, no. No, it's going to be like this. Huh, it's actually surprisingly close. It's barely changed the probabilities. Well, anyway. No. Tiles or pre-tiles or both. Anyway, yeah, so like around 25%. I think I'm just doing something wrong with the parameters, but in any case, it's not such a huge threat, right? But there's also another consideration. If they successfully separate, then we still have a chance to get a dagger and get a meeple back. But there's another consideration. If we do get trapped, it is actually not that bad, because this meeple will ensure that this farmer never overtakes the main field through this route. So I think it was just a misprioritization. The far more unfortunate event for us is what happened in the game. Our opponent simply getting a city cap and starting a new one. This is so painful. They get 4 extra points. They are completely safe now, and they are putting additional pressure on here. So what we had to do, we had to go over here with a meeple and prevent them from going over here. And then suddenly what would happen is that they would not have had any useful move for this tile whatsoever. So I think, and also just general, like if you look at this, then it creates a certain plan. You got to follow up with your plan. And this move makes all the sense in the world at a different time when there are other priorities. Also, the problem with this move is that our city is less safe. I also would have accepted this move as an alternative, simply just continue our own city. But yeah, it seems just something that's not an easy thing to figure out, but it appears to be a misprioritization from blue. Reds? Yeah, look at this, and we get our Dorito anyway, right? So red builds up their monastery, they take quick points, and then we finally finish our city. We're still ahead on the scoreboard, we're still doing fine. We can't really drop a farmer there, so that's a bit unfortunate. Ooh, now we also get ourselves a road monastery, which we can't really use, so we're probably just going to take the 5 points for the road. This gives our opponent a meeple back, but they're going to get a meeple back anyway, so what does it really matter? Yeah, and you see now that we've connected the cities and our opponent has given up hope on the splitter, then they protect this square. So had we not connected yet, maybe they would have not done that. Anyway, we're fine. Also, if they get this dagger tile closer to the end of the game, they can even meeple this 6-point road with their last meeple. But still, it's a fine position. We're slightly ahead on the scoreboard. We have the meeple majority. We get ourselves a meeple back. I would actually even argue maybe not meepling this city cap to being too insignificant because we can lose a meeple like this. Okay, now it's time to start attacking some field. I don't know. Still not able to use that tile. And I can understand this because going over here is a bit of too low prob of a farming attack. And what this move does, it creates... At least it a little bit protects our road, but that's okay. Oof. Ooh, no. That's too painful. Like, no. That's just... It's too desperate. It's way too desperate. You see, there's a tile for everything in Carcassonne, and this tile is just not for that purpose. So what we should have done with this move is going over here, continuing our city, making it a bit safer, also threatening to finish it. This move, it tries to connect to the field, which is okay, but it's just so awkward. So first of all, it indirectly prolongs our opponent's ruin, which they will be super grateful for. And then, as we're going to see from the next move, this puts our meeple into a compromised position. It is easily blockable with one of these moves, creating the blocking platform of tempo. So our opponents can either go here and take 4 points for the road with either this tile or this tile, the umbrella, or they can simply continue their ruin and create a blocking platform like this. Second, we're committing ourselves to only 3 tiles and 3 tiles which we really need elsewhere. So as blue, we're definitely way better off just adding 2 points to our city, creating a threat in a different part of the board. If our opponent is not careful enough and we do successfully finish that city, then it's worth 14 points, like meeple a 6-point counter field, and we're good to go. Also, if we are going to make field connections which allow, how do I say this? Which are hoping for 1 and 3 tiles, they're way better places to do this. For example, we can go here, drop a farmer like this. Yeah, that would be super powerful. Okay, have a look. So we can go here, drop a farmer like this, try to connect through one of the crossroads whilst also completing our road and meepling a new one. And in the unlikely event that our road gets blocked, then we can still bail out by drawing the road monastery, a 4th available tile, and connect on the outside. So this is already higher probability fields connection to begin with. We're not adding extra points to our opponent, and if they choose to block, we concede a blocking platform without tempo, because they're forced to place a tile here purely for blocking, and this is not guaranteed that it will be even able to do that. Moreover, there's some scenarios how we go here, and then they get something like a Dorito tile to try and block, and then we get a city cap tile, go over here and drop yet another farmer, and then when we get a crossroads, we connect 2 farmers at the same time and overrun the big field. So that's why definitely a big mistake here. How to avoid making these? Basically, this sometimes makes sense. But in order for this move to be justified, this needs to be later in the game when basically we need to be more desperate in order to be making stuff like these. And also, when we get into the field, we're sacrificing points. So this invasion will be worth less than 15 points or whatever it's going to be. And also, like, there's so much variance in this position. There's still these daggers undrawn. There's this road monastery spot still available. Like, there's a lot of things that can still go on in this game. So generally, with 20 tiles remaining, just make moves which are, how do I say this? Which like look pretty, I guess, because I think at this point, like all expert and master level players have already developed a certain intuition, like which tile fits where. And like case in point, it is incredibly now annoying to deal with because we have a lovely tile to score 4 points, but we can't. So we've robbed ourselves of point. Like we can't go here because this makes the square blockable. So it's really, really unfortunate now, and we're forced to just score 2. So we already lost 4 points on that move, and we haven't even connected to the field. Actually, no, scratch that. We lost 6 points. We didn't take 2 points over here. I also not gonna comment on the fact that we sacrifice the safety of the meeple as well, because if we go here, then we make the meeple safer. We not only add points to it, we also add points to our opponent's ruin, and we're not able to meeple a 4-point road. So we've sacrificed at least 6 points and possibly even more. Secret Star gets Monastery, starts Monastery. We get to protect our, we get to protect our road, and then we of course invade the farmer. That's beautiful. That's very nice. Monastery for us. Trying to block our opponent. I actually wonder if it was crazy to just go over here. Okay, I think that was a bit crazy, yeah. That was a bit crazy. Anyway, does he drop a farmer? No, he does not. We get to connect to the road, which is just fantastic for us. Yeah, so I told you, this connection platform is good, so glad that blue used it. Okay, 17 points behind. Ahead, rather. So now the game has opened up. Blue, with the starting tile, gets to extend their city, and then again, same position with the extender over here. Like, it doesn't even compare how much better that is. Like, the city is so good, in some cases we can even afford to lose the field. And we also have extra points already to begin with. Now Secret Star, of course, they're not going to continue the ruin. They're instead going to block Blue City. It's a pretty easy find. Yep, this is exactly what happens. Now we have our dagger tile. We still have the meeple majority. So we have basically equalized the field. And we even have chances of overrunning it. So I wonder if we should double down and actually go for this farmer as well. Or maybe, this farmer at the top is super, super annoying. Because then it makes it almost impossible for our opponents to finish the city productively. Yeah, now that we've committed to the field, we probably should be dropping this farmer somewhere. If we go here, then the added advantage is that we can connect not only through our opponent's monastery, but we can also connect through one of the daggers that fit into this square. Let's see what blue does here. Yep, we do see a farm. Now this makes a lot of sense strategically. Oh, and red is trying to finish themselves a city. And we get ourselves a city cap. And what exactly do we do? I wonder if we just go here and meeple the city cap simply to deny our opponents the joy of getting a meeple back with a farmer. And then we have 13 points on the scoreboard and a farming onslaught anywhere. With 7 tiles remaining, you kind of want to keep scoring, but then I wonder if we score 7 points here, which is what we want, and our opponent just gets city cap and drops a farmer, then it is rather unpleasant. Let's see. So we are ahead 13 points on the scoreboard. Our opponent has 6 points for the ruin and 6 points for the monastery, so that's 12. This 4-point city cancels out this 4-point city. We have 0-point farmer here. We have 3-point farmer here. We have 6-point farm here. Our opponent has a 12-point farm here. So we have 9 4 farms. And our opponent has 12 4 farms. Again, super close. So in fact, somehow we're losing by 2 points. So if we go here and meeple this city cap, then we're losing by 1 point, but we're banking on one of the many tiles available for us to gain more points. With any dagger, we equalize our 6-point field with a 12-point field, and we get 6. with any Dorito or a city cap, we get this invasion and we get 12 extra points. So if we just go over here, there's 7 tiles remaining and we're -1, and there are 4 tiles, which gives us 6 points, right? On the other hand, if we do that, and if we do get even 12 points in some instances, let's say if we invade with this farmer, then our opponent still has a meeple and a chance to score. For example, they can go here and expand their ruin. They can easily get 5 points, and then they can get the road monastery for 8. So we could still be losing even if we invade here successfully. Yeah, it's a very difficult endgame. So, but if we ignore that square, if we just take 4 points over here, this puts us 2 points ahead, but then our opponent has 4 tiles that more than half the deck. Wait, oh no, okay, they don't have this tile. Yeah, that actually changes. So they have 3 tiles, and if they have one of those tiles in hand right now, because if they go here and drop a farmer, it's just too many points for them. It's 9 points instantly. Actually, no, scratch that, that's 12. Because they're scoring for both farms. And they have a chance to reconnect here. Yeah, what do you even do? It's really, really tricky. My instinct is telling me to roll the dice and just go here. But I might have been reluctant to do that in an actual game. Well, let's see, let's see. So, what does blue do here? Blue decides to go for it. Wow, that's move really takes guts to pull off. Because you really hate to be placing your last meeple on a 1-point feature when you're down on the overall score. Our opponent just gets themselves 1 point because they score 4 points for a city and they do this. Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. We do get the other dagger, and I presume we get... Yeah, maybe. I'm not sure how I feel about this. I really like getting a meeple back. Let me think about this. Yeah, I think that's an imprecision. I think we're better off not doing this, but we're better off actually completing a shared city. Because look at this, what you're doing is you're unifying a 6-point farmer with a 9-point farmer. So with a 12-point farmer. So you're still getting 6 points. But in this instance, you're also giving yourself a meeple back. And you're still preserving the chances of this guy invading later. Whereas with this dagger tile, now that nothing fits into the square, you won't be invading at all, and your farmers here is going to be stuck by 6 points. Yeah, that actually is a mistake, because you know what? If you get yourself this invasion, then you're still threatening to re-invade here with the road monastery, and here with the 2, well, this sort of tile, whatever that is, yeah? So that's what you're threatening. So at the moment, you are threatening 1 tile less in order to win. And actually, if you were to just go here, then your opponent does not have a chance to block all invasions. They can only block 1. And you have 3 tiles, and you're going to have, how many moves are you going to have? 3 moves. So the chances of you not getting one of your connection tiles are 5%. So this appears like a 95% win if I'm not mistaken. And now it's a bit less. It's only a what? I don't want to count. But anyway, it's less. And also this allows our opponent to make this move, which you're going to do right now. I mean, they can reinvade the farm much easier. And they have now 3 tiles to reinvade as well. So the likely outcome is that the farm is going to be shared. We invade, they invade, we get the road monastery, of course. And now super, super important, a little puzzle for you. Where does the road monastery go? It is extremely important to get that right. Because the field at the top is tied, right? Oh, that's a perfect endgame puzzle. And I think there's only one move that wins you the game here. I want to double check again. So we're ahead 9 points on the scoreboard. And we have a 6-point field. Everywhere the fields are tied, this 4-point ruin is tied with this 4-point ruin. We have a 1-point city. Our opponent has a 6-point monastery and a 6-point city on the left here, 6-point ruin. So we are ahead 4 points. Oh, this is so beautiful. We're ahead 4 points, right? But what if I told you, unless we make one move and one move only, then we lose. Wait. Basically, now we have a chance to guarantee the win with 100% certainty. Any other move, we lose half the time. So first of all, let's identify what is your opponent's threat. If they draw this tile over here, well, they really can't score with that at all. But if they draw the other tile, if they draw this one over here, then they can go over here and they can get 5 points by extending their ruin. And then they win the game by 1 point. Of course, if we get that crucial tile, then we just get to go over here and extend our ruin, but it's only a 50-50 chance. So, does blue find the only winning move? And blue does! Yes, of course, blue blocks! And look at this! Secret Star actually had the tile to win the game. But now they can't use it at all, so that's a clutch find by the Latvian. And now everything is tied except the scoreboard. And you can see in a second that, well, we already counted that blue is going to win this +4. Wow, what an endgame. And a 7-point win and a 4-point win, and both really low-scoring games, despite going in for the big field fights, and must be a very satisfying way to qualify for the quarterfinals by solving an endgame puzzle and finding the one winning move. So yeah, in this game, I also felt that they quite a deserved win in this match because there were a lot of imprecisions in the opening by the Chinese player in both games, and then later the middle game and end game, kind of both players felt really well, but the opening is where blue really had the advantage in this match, and all these little things, these ripple effects, they end up mattering a lot. So I think the thing that did the Chinese player in was the fact that they didn't score aggressively enough. For example, they gave away this 4-point road for free, and they gave away the city cap for free in the opening. And this alone was enough for blue to hold on to a point difference with with 4 points, as tight games can be. It's a really nice performance here from the Latvian, and as a result, 2-0 win, which I'm going to update on the scoreboard real quick. And they're going to be in the quarterfinals. They're going to be, yeah, the site has not yet been updated. I'm not sure if the results were submitted because the match was recent. So, this also means there are going to be that Latvia is going to be represented by 2 participants in the quarterfinals. I just only hope that the draw will not pit us against each other. That would be extremely unfortunate. And there's still some matches unplayed. Now today there's going to be Someone You Know versus StatMat, which is the Battle of the World Champions, super interesting. And Visitor Q versus Pussy. Unfortunately, I can't stream either of those due to an earlier commitment, but you can watch that on Nalaheim's channel. And I will do my best to wake up early enough for either this or this match in the weekend, which is expected to be a banger. Also, this one is on the 23rd, quite early in the morning enough. And, you know, I'm probably going to talk myself into doing it, actually, yeah. So most likely an early morning stream is due Saturday and Sunday for the last remaining matches of round of 16. A bit of an unusual format for today's stream. Hopefully you got something out of it from a deeper dive into a recently finished match. Again, congratulations to napalmEye for qualifying for the quarterfinals. Commiserations to any Chinese fans that were watching this, but hopefully a bit of a learning experience. And that's going to be it. Hope you join me on one of the weekend streams. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'm gonna see you soon.